I'm Dr. Wickham Simonds. This is Michelle. Facebook Live event. We're doing these every other Monday, and we want to thank you for being a part of that. So I hope everyone had a good weekend. Summer's finally showing up. It's been kind of a weird spring and summer so far. We've had some cool weather, some rain stuff, but it's been hot here the last couple of weekends. So anyway, we are open. This is the week really of 4th of July. I realize it's on Saturday, but we're open all week, and we're going to be open next Monday. So you know, I'm real tough on the staff. I'm making them work, not giving them any days off, you know.
Not true. We have Fridays off. So we are closed on Friday.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The Raleigh location.
The Raleigh location, right. We're going to do the express hours in Durham on Friday. Okay. We are going to do them this Friday, which is July 3rd. We've got people scheduled already. So, you know, in the COVID-19 thing, there's just not a lot of traveling going on. So people still, you know, have a desire to come in and do their business. So, all right, good stuff. So, shall we get down to the list of questions?
Yes, this AMA is all about keto. So we're covering common keto-related questions. You can type in a question live if you're watching right now. For our next AMA, you can submit on the website. Even if it is a keto question in the future, you can still submit it. But today is just keto. Yeah. So we're going to start with a really important one. What is a ketogenic diet? What is ketogenic? What is keto? So what do you tell people when they say, what is that?
I say it's probably a good description would be the very first definition or criteria you have to meet is it has to be a carbohydrate restricted diet. You can't be in ketosis unless you restrict your carbohydrates. So that's the first thing. Mm-hmm. And for most people, then what it also means when you look at the other two macronutrients is that it's high in fat with moderate protein and low in carbohydrates. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Okay. And despite what some products may claim, true ketosis is when you eat differently to get there versus taking a product that claims to make you keto or put you in ketosis and then ketosis you can eat whatever you want. Not really how it works, and we explain that to our patients.
That's right. So let me just talk a little bit about that concept of ketosis and how it comes to what we call nutritional ketosis, right? I want to make the distinction that it's not ketoacidosis, which is a medical condition that arises in diabetics. Mm-hmm. It's a totally different animal. The names sound familiar, but it's a totally different thing, right? So we're talking about nutrition, eating a certain way to achieve this state of ketosis. It's all about lowering the hormone insulin. Insulin's your fat storage hormone, and it's protecting your fat stores here, okay? When that insulin levels up, it's holding on, you're storing fat, you're holding on to fat, and the insulin level goes up in response to you eating various forms of carbohydrate, which would be sugars, various forms of grain, and then starchy things, right? And so when you eliminate those things, your blood sugar doesn't spike. You then don't get the spikes in the insulin level. The insulin level stays nice and low. So if the insulin is your body's fat storage hormone, it's really low. Now you can start burning fat. And when you burn fat, you make a molecule. There's this molecule is called a ketone, hence the word ketosis. Mm-hmm. And this is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a very safe thing. Because that's the next question I know. Mm-hmm. These ketones have a lot of health promoting qualities to them. And so the idea is we want you to restrict the intake of sugar, flour, and starch so that you can achieve this state of ketosis, right? Now, a question always arises about the Atkins diet. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, a lot of people have confusion about the Atkins diet. And I'm a big fan, and always have been, of Robert Atkins. Mm-hmm. Okay, Robert Atkins did not invent the ketogenic lifestyle. He was the most famous one in our lifetime to promote it. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people have the wrong idea because the Atkins products, that came along after his death, okay, by people who took the company over. Robert Atkins, when you were in phase 1 of that diet, you could only have 4 things, okay? Milk, eggs, cheese, meat, eggs, cheese, and butter.
Mhm.
That's it. Okay, no vegetables, no anything. And that was a true ketogenic diet. And it corrected every known problem that you had just about in a month, right?
Mhm.
So and he took on really sick patients. So I give this guy a lot of credit because he promoted the ketogenic lifestyle. Now, he then would add things in like vegetables, but he would keep you under 20 grams of carbohydrate a day. That is, in my mind, always the Atkins diet. Now, I realize today you have all these products that have net carbs and stuff that go under the Atkins name, but that, in my opinion, wasn't the original Atkins diet. So the Atkins diet is definitely, the original Atkins diet is definitely a keto diet. Okay, it is a ketogenic diet, if you want to call it that, and it will always be a classic example of how to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah. So just to clarify, ketogenic diets encompass low carbohydrate eating plans, one of which is called the Atkins diet, right?
Correct.
So Atkins is almost like a brand, the way we say Kleenex for tissues.
Right.
Atkins is a known brand of a ketogenic diet, but you do not have to be on Atkins to be doing a ketogenic diet, nor do you have to be, strict keto to be doing an Atkins diet, because as we just discussed, their products have evolved, and that's not how Dr. Atkins originally had prescribed.
That's correct.
Eating pattern.
Yeah. Well, again, thank everyone for joining today. This is the Dr. Simonds Metabolic and Weight Loss Live Facebook Ask Me Anything event, and we're talking about the keto diet here today. So I want to go back to this idea that it's healthy and that it's safe. Because people have this sort of thing, oh my gosh, this is going to cause me X, Y, or Z problem. Okay. And this is one thing that I had to get over initially. Okay, because there were these perceptions that were incorrect about the American diet for a long time, and I think to call this diet unhealthy is almost a crime in ways. This diet corrects most of our American medical problems, and I would say right now, I haven't said this enough during this COVID-19 pandemic, if you want to call it that. This is the kind of diet that I think people need to be doing. And the reason I say this is a potent anti-inflammatory diet. And what kills people who get COVID-19 is an inflammatory cascade at about day 9 or 10 that absolutely overwhelms them. And this leads to just a dumping of inflammatory type fluid substances into your lungs, and they can't breathe. Okay. And so if you watch that, obesity is a pro-inflammatory condition that's number one up there on your risk of getting this and getting in trouble with it. Okay. This diet actually, in my opinion, puts you in a state where where you really quell the underlying inflammation in your body, so that if you got this virus, you are much less likely, in my opinion, to experience this phenomenon. Okay, so I think it's really kind of a good time to be doing a diet like this. We do encourage patients to do this. We don't mandate it, but we like to teach this sort of thing because they need to know the truth. It's not just that it'll help you lose weight; it'll make you healthy at the same time, right? Yeah,
it's a great option. And if you don't choose that option, that's okay. But we share in our practice a lot about why we believe in the healing properties of this way of eating, and a lot of our patients do it, and they are very, very successful, and we help them navigate through the difficulties of living in this country with this food supply and trying to eat in a way that is not the standard by any means.
That's right. That's correct. So I will say that I'll work with anyone doing any kind of diet to lose weight. So this isn't the only one. This is just one that I really like. Okay. And so don't get the idea that you can't come here if you are not going to do a keto diet. We're still going to treat you. We're going to make medicine available to you. We're going to help you regardless of what kind of diet you do. But this happens to be a diet that we really like. Before you get started on a diet like this, there's kind of maybe a few things you ought to do. What do you think?
Well, I think that, doing an inventory of your medications with a medical provider is important. And that is because, as we just talked about, the ketogenic diet is so powerful at improving health. It can do things like lower blood pressure and very quickly. So for instance, if you're on 1 or 2 or 3 medications for your blood pressure and you need them when you're not doing ketogenic diet,
Right.
and then you start a ketogenic diet, your blood pressure drops.
Yeah.
You could be at risk for fainting or being very, very tired from a very low blood pressure. So things like that we need to watch. There are certain, diuretics that we don't want you taking because it's natural when you're on a ketogenic diet to lose some electrolytes in the beginning. And so there's some medications, one we prescribe called HCTZ or hydrochlorothiazide, that it works by making you pee off sodium and potassium. But the ketogenic diet is like a natural diuretic. It helps you pee off extra sodium and some potassium. So things like that, it's really good to get guidance from someone, either from our office or someone that you trust and knows this diet and the important things to be watching for.
Yeah, it's not only true of blood pressure, but it's also very true of blood sugar. And because really we have a real epidemic of these terms, epidemic and pandemic, is kind of a pet peeve of mine. I get a little bit angry about the term pandemic when we're talking about these sorts of infectious diseases, right? When meanwhile we have basically half of the United States population either with diabetes or pre-diabetes and are overweight, and that in my mind is kind of pandemic proportions. And I think we kind of have our frame of reference is wrong in many cases. So a lot of people who come to see me have these conditions, and you're right. So the blood pressure, the blood sugar, these are things that doing that inventory of medicine by a skilled provider matters, and we have those here and can make the correct recommendations to you. And then look, getting in a mindset. Okay, at some point, if you're going to make a change, you got to make a change, right? Mm-hmm. And you got to start realizing before you start, hey, the deal has to be over with. It's like a bad relationship. You need to just go on and cut it off after you try to repair it a bunch of times. This is the way it is with sugar and floury things, right? Mm-hmm. You just got to go ahead and lay down the law and say, okay, I'm moving in a different direction here, right? And I like that mindset. It's gonna, we can help you by giving you medicine that really helps control your appetite and desire for these things. But you just have to recognize them for what they are. In this case, they're the enemy, right? They're pro-inflammatory substances that make you gain weight. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So,
we can talk about something that patients bring up a lot to us, and is commonly talked about in blogs. It's called the Keto Flu. So if you've never heard of it, it's basically the transition that your body may go through, usually in the very beginning of starting a ketogenic diet. And often there are things that can be done to really help with that transition. A lot of it is related to electrolyte balance and hydration. So I talked earlier how the ketogenic diet could be like a natural diuretic and make you lose a lot of excess fluid, but with that fluid comes things like sodium, potassium, magnesium. So replacing those in things like broth and dietary supplements, that can help. And maybe exogenous ketones can help with that as well.
That's correct.
Yeah, we should probably talk about what it feels like. So it's not the flu.
Right. It's not influenza.
You're not sick.
Yeah.
But that loss of hydration, electrolytes can leave you feeling achy, tired. Maybe you have a headache. Maybe you just feel like you may be coming down with something.
Right.
But in fact, you're not. Your body's just going through a transition. And the electrolytes along with maybe the exogenous ketones can help. So we can touch on
that's right. So
like.
To give you an overview, when I explain this to female patients, they always get it. Mm-hmm. Their eyes always get really big, okay? Because I've never met, in all the years of practicing this sort of medicine, which is 16 years this year, and thousands of patients, right? And many female patients, the idea of retaining salt and fluid is something they're all familiar with. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I mean they'll tell you I eat a potato chip and swell up like a toad. Statements like that you'll hear this all the time, right? Okay, so the one thing about this diet, okay, it ties into what Michelle is saying. when you cut out the sugar and the flour and the starch, and that insulin level comes down, you start burning fat, you'll make these ketones. And when the ketones pass out into the urine originally, okay, when they get filtered through your kidney, sodium goes with it. All right. And sodium and water goes with it. So if you're the kind of person that retains salt and water, this is going to fix your problem in the first week. Okay. And it's going to be pretty dramatic. Now, how does that play into what you're talking about? Well, the drop in the sodium level is so precipitous that you actually have to add sodium back in. Now, the American Heart Association and these other outfits have the whole entire U.S. population scared of salt. And I have to kind of go say, hey, well, this is the one case that salt is good, right? So we actually tell people to take bouillon cubes, full salt bouillon cubes, dissolve them in hot water and drink it a couple times a day that first week when you go on this to replace that salt. Okay,
and it helps.
It does make you feel a lot better. And one of the other things that passes out with the ketones is magnesium. So a lot of times we'll have you take a magnesium supplement, and we want you to talk with us about that, because a lot of the over-the-counter magnesium supplements are really just like milk of magnesia. They just give you diarrhea if you take them, which compounds your problem. It doesn't help you.
They go through.
That's right. Yeah. And they go through with everything else that's in your intestines. And so rather than create that misery for you, we try to promote, for example, some of our supplements from Metagenics that won't do that, right? Or recommend recommend other brands to you to look for in the store, so you don't end up picking the wrong thing, right? So sodium and magnesium are really important. And then the idea of the exogenous ketone you mentioned, there are various products where the ketones are in them. And you can just think of the ketones as replacing your blood sugar, because your blood sugar is lower. They tend to make you feel better when you do them. And so we could recommend that sort of thing to you. For most people, that's not really necessary. I like the idea of the electrolytes more.
Yeah, but you will hear those exogenous ketone terms. And I think I opened up with talking about how there's not a product that's just going to put you in ketosis. You get to eat whatever you want. And that's not what those products really are meant for. But they can really help in a short course as you're transitioning newly onto a ketogenic diet. So if you have more questions about that, feel free to ask us.
Okay.
So we move on to the... All right. So how much weight can you lose? This is a very common question. And it can vary, definitely, from person to person. Gender will play a role. How much weight you have to lose will play a role. There's a lot of factors, and what medications you take. As with anything, we're going to say, that depends. However, I don't know if your experience is this, but my experience in doing this for 8 years is universally people lose weight when they do a ketogenic diet in the beginning, and continue to, as long as we, keep them, on track and you are committed. So the early weight loss, very early, can be some of the water weight, like we just talked about, but then it transitions into basically pure fat. And we can monitor that because we have special scales that we do this metabolic assessment with that tell us you're keeping your muscle, you're losing your fat. Every month you come in, we are monitoring that to make sure that you are not losing muscle mass. And with a ketogenic diet, it is one of the few that really preserves the muscle mass, burns the fat mass, and people feel great on.
That's right. That's right. Obesity is a disease of excess body fat. It is an organ. Your fat is an organ, and it has a limited capacity. All right. And so putting too much in there, it's like trying to overfill your gas tank. It's not a good idea. It's going to make a mess all down the side of your car and on the tire and on the pavement around it, okay? Well, that's happening in your body when you have too much body fat. It spills out everywhere else. And this method causes your body to mobilize and burn that fat, bringing that organ back into its correct size. I really like this diet for this reason. It preserves the lean mass, you burn the fat mass. It is an excellent reason to do it, in my opinion. So then the question is, well, what can you eat on this? And I've already touched on this, and what should you avoid? Okay. So, I've talked about avoiding things. Look, if it's a sugary thing, it's addictive, I know. So whether it's regular soda, sweet tea, cookies, candies, cakes, all that stuff is obvious. Then no one ever comes in my door that says, oh yeah, well, I'm going to eat a bunch of cake to lose weight.
Or the soda diet, not a thing.
Exactly. So I think even saying that on the sugar part is probably a little bit misleading because no one believes that. If they get fooled on things like fruit and fruit juices, okay, the sugar.
And sports drinks.
That's
People
right.
think,
That's correct.
I was sweating, so I had a Gatorade. What's wrong with that? And
sugar.
You're not an athlete, right? And the Gatorade has a ton of sugar, as do all the related sports drinks brands.
That's right. So a lot of fruit has a lot of sugar in there. Fruit juices have it. The sports drinks have it. Now, in terms of the grainy things, I would say breads, crackers, cereals, noodles, oatmeal. Where people miss it, they say, well, I had oatmeal. That was good for me, right? Yeah. It wasn't cereal. Okay, well, you know what? It's a grain, and that's going to keep you out of ketosis. I don't want you to think white or brown. I just want you to think grain. Okay, it needs to be out of your diet. And then look, the rice and the potatoes are the starchy things. Rice, potatoes, and beans, really. Yeah. Okay. People say, well, I had quinoa or brown rice or whatever. And I say, okay, well, you're still getting a lot of carbohydrate there.
And that means blood sugar up and insulin up.
Well,
so it doesn't come down to good food, bad food. It comes down to foods that spike your blood sugar and spike your insulin, and foods that don't.
Well, that's right. So what can you have is a simple rule. I always say you can have animals, what comes from animals, and what you can grow that's not fruit. Okay? So which is really what comes out of the garden. Okay? It's very similar to what our ancestors ate. I don't assume any of you are going to go grain and eat it right off the stalk. So So look, animals, what comes from animals? Okay, so everyone's familiar with the idea of beef, chicken, fish, pork, that sort of thing, seafood. And then what comes from animals? Eggs, cheese, butter. This is not, again, a low-fat diet. Okay, so those sorts of fats, naturally occurring fats, do not hurt you. And I'd like to correct that notion that you think that eating meat or that eating eggs is going to clog your arteries and all this. It's not true. Okay, I would say it's not. Look, it's not the sausage; it's the biscuit you put it on. Okay, this is what has become clear from scientific evidence, in my opinion. And so, but eating the sausage or the piece of meat itself is not the problem.
Yeah. And an important thing to keep in mind is, although we are pro-animal diet, we definitely teach, the majority of our patients do eat animal products. There are ways to do a ketogenic diet or to just do a healthy diet for weight loss without animal products included in them. And we do have patients who do that. So we can guide you either way. Or if there's certain animal proteins you don't like, I only eat fish, or I only eat chicken and turkey.
We'll work with you. Right.
It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, everyone's individualized and we'll work with it. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're not the food Nazis here. Okay, we're here to help you. And so, if you don't want to do that sort of diet and you're a vegetarian, say, hey, I like something a little different. Okay, fine.
There's no box that we try to fit you in when you're our patient. You get to dictate, what is going to work for you, and we are here to help you, to guide you, to give you tools, to educate, to support.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
That's exactly right. So, all right. So, can you drink alcohol on this diet? And the answer is yes, but in moderation, and you got to avoid the sweet stuff. Okay, so don't go get the pina colada or daiquiri mix and all that. So if you want to have some vodka with some club soda and lime, that's fine. Now I tap it. I wouldn't do more than, definitely not more than 2 a day, and I would really, the less of that you drink, the more weight you're going to lose.
Yeah, generally, and that can vary from person to person as well. But generally speaking, you have to be careful about what it is and the quantity. But most people can drink alcohol on a ketogenic diet, and they do just fine.
That's correct. Well, I wouldn't avoid wine altogether. I would avoid sweet wine.
Yeah, the dessert wines not going to work out. Too much sugar.
That's right.
But some of the dry ones, again, not a goblet. In a normal serving.
About 4 ounces is about right. So a smaller wine glass. I had to go out and buy some of those. Merlot, a Cabernet, a Chardonnay, a Pinot Grigio. These are a Sauvignon Blanc. This is fine with me. The amount matters. Okay, I'd say figure about 1 gram of carb per ounce. So if you're trying to stay under 20 a day, for example, and you had 6 ounces of wine, there's 6 of your carbs. Okay.
And there are very low carb beers.
That's right.
Oh, so people will be able to do, say, Mega Ultra.
Oh, yeah. I discovered a new one over the weekend. And so hat tip Luke Bryan, the country singer Luke Bryan, who I love this. I'm mad that I can't go to his concerts and all that stuff. Luke, hat tip, I love your new 2-lane light beer. Okay, 2-Lane Brewing, Luke Bryan, kicking it up, it says on the can, kicking it up responsibly, it says on the can. It's 99 calories and 3 grams of carbs, and the water comes from the Blue Ridge Mountains. So there are numerous brands like that out there that are catering to the low carb crowd. So if you have 2 of those, that's 6 carbs, right? So it is possible. You could do that summertime. You might want to have one of those after mowing the yard, for example.
Yeah. And there are there's an explosion happening with the seltzers.
Yeah.
The non-alcoholic seltzers,
yeah.
which are really nice. You get the
That's
bubbles,
right, yeah.
things like LaCroix or bubbly brands, and then things like Truly and White Claw.
Right.
They are just everywhere now. Every time I go to the store, I think there's like 8 more brands of these seltzers that are sugar-free. There's just a hint of fruit flavoring.
Essence, if you will.
There you
essence
go.
of fruit flavor.
Yep.
And so it's really a little bit of white alcohol and then some and seltzer water, like you say. And by the way, 2-Lane has some of those. I saw. I haven't tried them yet. But I tried the beer, so it was pretty good. All right. So how long can you be on this diet? The answer to that is forever. There's no danger in being on this diet for the long term. Common mistakes. We kind of begin to touch on that when we talk about what kind of foods you can have and can't have.
Yeah, so hidden sugars, condiments, dressing, sauces.
You got it.
And then, other mistakes are thinking that you maybe have to fast in order to do keto, or you have to eat this exact certain way. Really, it's carbohydrate restriction. So it's more about what you are excluding from your diet. And if you got that on, kind of on handle, then the things that you're including, you have a lot of varieties. You don't have to put yourself again in this little box. You have to do an Atkins specific, or you have to do bars or shakes or take products. Keto can be simple if you want it to be, and it can be very, very easy if you're ready and committed in that state. And we can help you understand that.
Yeah, excellent. Yes, and it's always easy to restart. The producer just asked me a question about that. Look, I mean, we're human, right? We make mistakes. I make mistakes. I fall off. Christmas time, I've been known to, eat a plate of cookies or something stupid like that. Well, you got to get over yourself. You got to learn to forgive yourself. Don't get in this kind of self-condemnation mode. I always say if you're saving a penny a day and 10 days a year, you miss saving the penny, you still got a lot of pennies in your jar, right? It's kind of like that with the diet. So, add up your good days, and if you get to restart, don't get all over yourself. Just restart.
Yeah, and it's a
positive direction again.
It's a myth that if you're working hard, weeks, and you have one meal where you're out socially and you make a decision that takes you out of ketosis or is not really on plan, you're not going to undo all the work you just did, right? It doesn't work like that. You just get right back on. The next meal is your next opportunity to get right back on whichever eating plan you're on. But with keto especially, the next time you eat, you make a good decision.
That's right.
That's it.
Bingo.
Yeah.
I think we kind of answered the thing about can vegetarians do the keto. Certainly. Go to Keto Meals. I kind of like this question. This is, because you can eat out. And and really continue this lifestyle. You can almost always get, presuming you could eat out during the COVID-19 pandemic anyway. But you can always pair a piece of meat of some kind with vegetables, and they'll offer you a starch. Well, skip the starch and get double on the vegetables.
Yeah, you can do seafood.
Yeah.
You do wings if you're out. You can do eggs at home. There's
the Cobb salad. It's another favorite of mine. The Cobb salad, right? And that a lot of places have those, so it's actually really friendly as far as being able to eat out. In my opinion.
And more restaurants, especially fast food restaurants, have started to even have low carb options or low carb style or protein style. They have different names, so you can even go to Bojangles and get a bowl of eggs and sausage and cheese. You do not have to get it on a biscuit. You do not have to get fries on the side of things.
Right.
There's ways to do it for sure.
Right, intermittent fasting on the keto diet, good idea. And you're already in the fat burning mode. This is
usually
great.
Much easier.
That's right. Because your body's conditioned to burning fat. Ketones makes you less hungry. Good time to be doing that. Okay. Let's wrap it up here. Got less than a minute left. You can visit our website, simonsmetabolics.com. And we've got a lot of great resources on there, including access to these videos that we've done. You can go to the Casual Keto Doctor site, and the Instagram site for the Casual Keto Doctor is loaded with recipes. We got lots of resources for you, and we encourage you to visit us there. Thanks again for joining us today and being a part of our practice and being a part of these Ask Me Anything events. And we remind you we're open this week, at the 4th of July week, and we look forward to talking to you here at the office and again in 2 weeks from today.
Yeah, see you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Have a wonderful week.
See you, everybody.